Volkswagen just announced German plant closures for the first time in 87 years. Stellantis is bleeding €2 billion per quarter. Jaguar is abandoning every current model to chase customers who don't exist. But here's what nobody's reporting. Some of these struggling brands have genuine survival plans that might actually work, while others are making decisions so catastrophic they're guaranteeing their own extinction. Today, I'm breaking down 7 European car brands fighting for survival, what each one is actually doing to stay alive, and which strategies might work versus which are corporate suicide dressed up as innovation. The European car market isn't just struggling, it's experiencing structural collapse. New registrations remain 18% below pre-pandemic levels. Chinese manufacturers now control over 10% of the EV market and growing. Manufacturing costs have increased roughly 40% while consumer purchasing power has declined. But within this chaos, there are different stories. Some brands are making calculated retreats that might preserve their future. Others are doubling down on strategies that contradict market reality. And a few are so deep in denial that internal documents show executives already planning exit strategies. The difference between survival and extinction often comes down to whether leadership acknowledges reality or chases fantasy. Today, we're examining 7 brands at the crossroads and the decisions that will determine whether they exist in 2030.
This video is brought to you by 70My. Look, I spend most of my time telling you what not to buy. So when I recommend something, I mean it. The 70My Dashcam 4K T800 is the first 3-channel dashcam with dual 4K recording, front and rear in 4K, plus interior coverage. Sony Starvis 2 sensors mean you can actually read number plates at night, not just see blurry blobs. It uses a supercapacitor instead of a lithium battery, so it won't melt on your dashboard in summer or die in winter. Operating range, -40 to +85 degrees Celsius. If someone hits your car while it's parked, the G sensor automatically saves the footage to a protected folder from all 3 cameras. Link in the description. Now, back to our video. Before examining individual brands, understanding the environment matters. European car manufacturing faces simultaneous pressures that haven't occurred together before. The regulatory squeeze is relentless. EU 2025 emissions targets require fleet averages of 93.6 grams per kilometre of CO2, down from 95.9 grams per kilometre. Miss that target, and manufacturers face fines of €95 per gram over target per vehicle sold. For high-volume manufacturers, that's potentially billions in penalties. Consumer behaviour has shifted permanently. The average European now keeps their car for 12 years, up from 8 years a decade ago. This isn't just economic caution, it's rational response to vehicles that cost more but don't offer proportionally more value. When a new Volkswagen Golf costs €35,000, keeping your existing car makes mathematical sense. Chinese competition isn't coming, it's here. BYD, MG and others now offer vehicles that match European quality at 30 to 40% lower prices. The technological advantage that justified European premiums has evaporated. Battery technology, software integration, manufacturing efficiency. Chinese manufacturers now lead in categories Europeans once dominated. Within this environment, 7 brands are making decisions that will determine their survival. Some might make it, others won't. Smart occupies a peculiar position. A brand that solved a problem Europe no longer has, now trying to become something completely different. The original Smart for 2 was genius for a specific moment. Tiny European city centres with impossible parking. 2 seats, minimal footprint, adequate for urban commuting. It found genuine market fit. That market has changed. City centres now have congestion charges, low emission zones, and improved public transport. The people who once needed tiny cars now take trains, ride bikes, or work remotely. Smart's original customer base has largely abandoned car ownership entirely. The response? Pivot to electric SUVs built in China through a Geely joint venture. The Smart number 1 and number 3 are competent vehicles, but they're competing against established alternatives in a segment where Smart has zero brand equity. The survival strategy shows desperation mathematics. Smart sold roughly 35,000 vehicles in Europe in 2024. Decent for the old microcar formula, inadequate for the investment required to build an SUV brand from scratch. They're betting that Mercedes-Benz heritage, Smart was originally a Mercedes project, creates enough credibility to compete against Volkswagen, Hyundai, and Chinese newcomers. The honest assessment? Smart might survive as a Geely sub-brand selling decent Chinese EVs with European positioning. But Smart as an independent automotive force?
that ship has sailed. The brand exists because Geely wants European market access and Mercedes wants to offload a problem. Whether that marriage produces sustainable business remains genuinely uncertain. Survival odds? 50-50. The Chinese backing provides resources, but the market position is weak and the brand identity is confusing. DS exists because Stellantis executives looked at BMW's profit margins and thought, we should have some of that. What they failed to understand is that premium brands aren't created by marketing departments, they're earned over decades. The core problem is identity. Ask anyone what DS stands for and you'll get blank stares. The brand split from Citroën in 2015, but 9 years later, most European buyers still don't know it exists. Those who do can't articulate why they'd choose DS over established German alternatives. European sales tell the story of a brand searching for customers who aren't there. The DS7 crossover competes against the BMW X3 and Audi Q5, vehicles with decades of brand equity and genuine engineering differentiation. The DS offers different headlights and a fancy clock on the dashboard. That's not a value proposition. The dealer network reflects reality. Most DS dealerships are corners of Citroën showrooms with a few cars that salespeople aren't trained to sell. The dedicated DS facilities that Stellantis envisioned never materialized because the volume never justified the investment. What happens next is absorption, not extinction. DS will likely become what it always should have been, a premium trim level on Citroën products rather than a pretend competitor to genuine luxury brands. The name might survive, the independent brand strategy won't. For current DS owners, service will continue through Citroën networks, which share parts and platforms. For prospective buyers, understand you're purchasing a vehicle that may not have brand support within 5 years. Survival odds? 25%. Something called DS continues. Independent premium positioning doesn't. The Giulia is the best handling sports sedan in its class. Independent tests confirm it. Journalists confirm it. Owners who actually bought one confirm it. The problem is that almost nobody actually bought one. Alfa Romeo represents the painful truth that product quality and commercial success are different things. The cars are genuinely excellent, the engineering is genuinely sophisticated, the driving experience is genuinely special, and none of that matters when your annual sales volumes equal what BMW moves in a few weeks. The Tonale was supposed to change everything, a compact SUV in the hottest segment with hybrid options at competitive pricing, the perfect product for the market. Except it's selling at roughly 1/10 the volume of segment leaders like the Mazda CX-5. The savior vehicle is performing like every other Alfa, beloved by the few who buy it, ignored by everyone else. Stellantis announced massive investment in Alfa's electrification. The actual money flowing to development programs tells a different story. Product timelines keep slipping. The new large SUV? Delayed. The next generation Giulia? Uncertain. The pattern suggests Stellantis is managing decline rather than funding recovery. The dealer network has contracted significantly over the past decade. Most remaining Alfa points are shared facilities with Fiat or Jeep. The dedicated Alfa experience that enthusiasts crave doesn't exist in most markets. There isn't enough volume to justify it. What probably happens? Alfa's design and engineering expertise gets absorbed into other Stellantis brands. The name appears on performance variants of mainstream products. Perhaps 1 or 2 special vehicles per decade maintain trademark legitimacy. But Alfa Romeo as a standalone sports car manufacturer? The commercial foundation hasn't existed for 20 years. For buyers who want the driving experience, these are genuinely special cars available at significant discounts. Just understand the ownership context and factor brand uncertainty into your expectations. Survival odds, 35%. The badge survives. Independent sports car manufacturing probably doesn't.
Lancia won more World Rally Championships than any other manufacturer. The Delta Integrale, the Stratos, the 037. These were cars that defined motorsport excellence. Today, Lancia sells rebadged Fiats to Italian pensioners who remember when the badge meant something. The decline isn't recent. It's been 40 years in the making. Lancia hasn't produced a genuinely competitive vehicle since the 1990s. The brand retreated to Italy, then retreated within Italy to a single model, then watched that model's sales dwindle to irrelevance. The Renaissance that Stellantis announced follows 3 previous Renaissance announcements since 2010. Each promised new models, expanded markets, and restored glory. Each produced nothing except press releases and eventually another announcement that the previous announcement wasn't happening. The new electric Ypsilon represents the latest attempt. Early sales suggest it's following the pattern of previous savior products, generating publicity without generating meaningful revenue. The Italian market alone cannot sustain a car manufacturer, and Lancia has no presence anywhere else. What keeps Lancia technically alive is bureaucratic inertia. Killing the brand would generate negative publicity in Italy, a market Stellantis cares about for Fiat sales. Maintaining the trademark costs essentially nothing, so the brand continues in a state of suspended animation, neither truly alive nor officially dead. For practical purposes, Lancia vehicles share platforms with Fiat, meaning service and parts remain available through Fiat networks. Resale values are already minimal and will stay that way regardless of corporate announcements. Survival odds 20%. The badge appears on future Stellantis products occasionally. Meaningful car manufacturing almost certainly doesn't continue. Maserati has been about to turn the corner for 2 decades. Every few years brings a new CEO, a new strategy, a new collection of promises. The Ghibli would democratize Italian luxury. The Levante would capture the SUV boom. The MC20 would restore the racing heritage. The Grecale would finally deliver volume. None of it has worked. Maserati's European sales remain in 4 figures, closer to boutique watchmaker volumes than car manufacturer volumes. Bentley, charging roughly double per vehicle, outsells Maserati. That's not a market position, that's a rounding error. The depreciation problem reveals what buyers actually think. Used Maserati values collapse faster than almost any competitor. A 3-year-old Ghibli can lose 2/3 of its original value, worse than vehicles with a fraction of its purchase price. Even the MC20, positioned as a collectible supercar, has lost value rapidly since launch. When buyers don't believe in your brand's future, they price that uncertainty into resale. The Grecale was supposed to compete with the Porsche Macan. Instead, it's competing for attention against the Alfa Romeo Tonale, a vehicle that shares its platform and costs significantly less. When your corporate sibling undercuts you with essentially the same product, your pricing strategy has failed. Stellantis has already retreated from previous Maserati investment commitments. The electric Quattroporte successor? Cancelled. Major platform investments? Redirected elsewhere. The pattern suggests Stellantis leadership has concluded the Maserati cannot be fixed and is managing an orderly decline. What remains? The Maserati name has value, special editions of other Stellantis products, perhaps occasional halo vehicles to maintain trademark legitimacy. But Maserati as an independent luxury manufacturer competing against Porsche and Bentley? That fantasy ended years ago. Survival odds 30%. The trident appears on future products. Independent luxury manufacturing ends. Jaguar is attempting the most radical brand transformation in automotive history. They're not updating their lineup, they're abandoning it entirely. Every current model dies. The customer base they've spent decades building? Deliberately abandoned. The replacement strategy targets an entirely different buyer who may not exist. The current trajectory is undeniably dire. Sales have dropped from approximately 180,000 units in 2018 to under 70,000 in 2024. The F-Type is finished. The sedans are gone. The I-Pace hasn't found its audience. By late 2025, Jaguar dealers will have essentially nothing new to sell while waiting for the electric future to arrive. The replacement strategy targets ultra-luxury electric vehicles at 6-figure price points. The Type 00 concept shows the direction. Dramatic design, exclusive positioning, prices that compete against Bentley rather than BMW. Management argues this is the only viable path. Jaguar can't match German volume, can't compete with Chinese value, so exclusivity is the only remaining option. The counter-argument is straightforward. Jaguar's current customers bought XFs and F-Paces at £40,000 to £60,000. They largely cannot afford £100,000 plus vehicles. The ultra-luxury market the brand is entering is small, fiercely competitive, and dominated by established players. Building credibility there typically takes decades. The dealer network faces devastation. Jaguar plans to dramatically reduce physical locations, replacing traditional dealerships with boutique experience centers. Hundreds of dealers who invested in Jaguar facilities face closure with no transition support. Land Rover, the profitable sister brand, is actively distancing itself. Separate facilities, separate identities, separate futures. When your own corporate sibling treats you like a liability, the message is clear. The honest assessment: this strategy could work. A small number of exceptional vehicles sold to wealthy enthusiasts might sustain Jaguar as a boutique manufacturer, but the execution risk is enormous, and the margin for error is essentially zero. Survival odds 40%. The gamble might pay off. The odds are against it. The most consequential story isn't any individual brand. It's the company that owns half the brands on this list. Stellantis faces structural problems that no amount of cost-cutting can solve. The 2021 merger of PSA and Fiat Chrysler was supposed to create synergies through scale, combine engineering resources, share platforms, reduce overhead. The theory made sense. The execution has been problematic.
The fundamental issue is brand proliferation. Stellantis operates more brands than any competitor while selling fewer vehicles per brand. Toyota runs 3 brands efficiently. Volkswagen manages complexity with volume. Stellantis maintains separate identities, marketing campaigns, and dealer networks for brands that often compete against each other on shared platforms. European sales have declined approximately 15% since the merger. The stock price has dropped over 40% from post-merger highs. Leadership transition has created uncertainty. Carlos Tavares, the CEO who architected the merger, departed in late 2024, leaving successors to manage decisions they didn't make. The debt burden is substantial, though the exact figures depend on measurement methodology. What's clear is that Stellantis lacks the financial flexibility of healthier competitors. When market conditions worsen, highly leveraged companies suffer disproportionately. The likely trajectory is consolidation through necessity rather than strategy. Peugeot and Citroën have genuine market positions worth preserving. Fiat retains cultural significance in Italy. Jeep and Ram have clear identities in North American markets. Everything else faces hard questions. DS, Lancia, Alfa Romeo, Maserati. These brands consume resources without generating proportional returns. Some will be absorbed, some may be sold, some might simply fade away. For consumers, this creates portfolio-wide uncertainty. Even healthy Stellantis brands face questions about parent company stability. Parts availability, warranty support, and service networks all depend on corporate health that cannot be guaranteed indefinitely. Survival odds for Stellantis as currently structured, 30%. Something called Stellantis will probably exist in 2030. Whether it resembles today's company, with 14 brands and European manufacturing, is genuinely uncertain. 7 brands fighting for survival, with odds ranging from coin flip to nearly hopeless. The patterns are consistent. Brands without genuine market differentiation are dying. Premium positioning requires either exclusive technology or deep heritage, preferably both. Volume manufacturing requires scale that most European brands lack. The middle ground, where many brands have lived, adequate products at adequate prices, no longer exists when Chinese manufacturers offer better value. Here are the survival tiers. Might make it smart with Chinese backing. Jaguar with high-risk repositioning. Probably won't survive independently. Alfa Romeo, the enthusiast's favorite with insufficient volume. Maserati with heritage without modern relevance. Almost certainly finished. DS with no market position. Lancia with nothing left to save. The wild card. Stellantis itself. Too large to fail, too troubled to continue unchanged. For buyers, these trajectories matter. Purchasing from a struggling brand means accepting uncertainty about future service, parts availability, and resale value. The cars themselves might be excellent. Alfa Romeo proves that quality and commercial failure can coexist. The honest advice: if you're buying from any brand on this list, go in with realistic expectations. Understand that your ownership experience depends on corporate decisions beyond your control. Factor uncertainty into your purchase calculation. The European car industry is restructuring violently. Some brands will survive the transition, others won't. Being informed about which is which helps you make decisions you won't regret. Which of these brands do you think deserves to survive? Have you owned any of them? Share your perspective in the comments. Your experience helps other viewers understand the ownership reality beyond the corporate press releases. And if you want more analysis that separates marketing from truth in the automotive industry, subscribe to this channel. We're here to help you make informed decisions.